Okay, let's see what do we cover. All right, so let's get started. Since because we only have 1 hour, and probably gonna take a bit of time for everybody to arrive. Okay, so let me take a look at what things. I think the last time I had a talk with all the 4 people, it was mostly the introduction and what we have and what we not have in ServiceNow. So I also give a few notes, a few things to consider before they start, working as a developer, because this is something that will help in kind of build the foundation and all. So, okay, so let me get started with some basic things. Right, so since you guys are not aware, and I'm assuming you might have seen the audio and video.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good. So let's see. How do we, kind of start with some basic things before that I do. Right. Okay. So let's say anything in ServiceNow. I mean, not everything, but the development of any kind of application or any kind of module starts with creating a form. Okay, so typically, whenever we create a form, let's say. So whenever we create any form, any form in ServiceNow would be symbolized by a table in the backend. Okay, so there's no form in ServiceNow which is just HTML pages. There are of course just HTML pages, but they are not called form here. Anything that you call form has to be a form of a table. So there'll be a table at the backend, and that table would be represented in an HTML page in ServiceNow because it's a cloud-based operation. So the moment I would like to create my form, that means I would like to create a new table. So I have to search for table, and then the system definition, which holds a lot of other system-related applications. Here is where I'm going to create a new table. Okay, let's say new. There already, as you could see, a lot of tables exist in ServiceNow. I'm going to create some kind of, let's say, demo table. Okay, so I put a name. I press tab. The moment I press tab, ServiceNow creates a name for me. This name is the internal name of the table. So if I put label as demo, ServiceNow will create a table at backend. So ServiceNow uses MySQL as a database. It's a database management system with name u_demo. Now why u_? It's not only for a table. Even if I create any new field, ServiceNow will add that u_. This u_ denotes user defined, meaning it is not owned by ServiceNow, but by client/users, right? Any table field that ServiceNow creates will not have the u_. Anything that you do will have the u_ to denote or to segregate that these tables, these forms, these fields are not from out-of-box system. It's something that you customized. Because if something goes wrong to your application, it's not always necessary, unless it's a trouble with your system. It's not always necessary that the ServiceNow support is going to help you out, because they'll try to find out, does it belong to them or not. If it doesn't belong to them, let's say you build a custom application, it does something and it kind of heavily failed, with all the logical error, they'll not fix it. Your developers or your people has to fix it. If it's something, with the system, any kind of error, the system, ServiceNow will obviously take responsibility because they're their product. Either way, this u_demo is the name of the table that gets created. In demo, it becomes my table. Now we'll talk about this later. Extend table. Create module and create mobile module. So create module is basically this. So if you want to have a module, you can check this. Typically, when you're doing it for the very first time, we keep it checked. And then menu. This menu meaning the application name. What is this, right? So we talked about application menu and module in the last session. So if I keep these two, it's going to create, these things. And you can kind of, there are a few other options, but we don't need to talk about it right now. You can just, so basically you just put a label. That's all I put. The rest are all generated by ServiceNow. The moment I save or I submit, either way, it will create a table in the backend. It will create a blank HTML form in my front end, for me to kind of use it, right? Because I will not be directly interacting with the backend, and a few other metadata. So we'll talk about all those metadata later. But whenever we create a new form table in ServiceNow, it creates a table metadata blank form in application server, or rather what I can see in my front end, right? Front end. Okay, so now if I just type demo, actually I can even see it. It's right here. So click. So it created application menu. It created a module, and if I click there, it will go to the default view of a list, which obviously I don't have any, right? So here I will apply, form, right? Now the next step is, now that I have a form, I would like to add some fields. So very easy. As I've told you in the last session, that everything in ServiceNow comes with a right click. So I'm going to right click here, okay, and this is called the context menu in case you know. And I'm going to go to form layout under configure. So all the admin and development related options should come to configure option. All right, everything we have here, it's under one link. Now I'm going to go to form layout. So what does it do? To lay down the form properly and create new fields, views, sections. These are the things a form layout can help me. So you're gonna see all this. So on the left hand side, I see the existing data that I already have. Remember, whenever I create a new field, a new table, ServiceNow creates 6 system fields all the time. Every time you create a new table, ServiceNow will always create these fields. You can see 5 of them. There is one more which you cannot see, which is called sysid. So I will show you that. How do I see it? Let's say I'm going to create a new field here. So to create a new field, it's damn easy. So let's say it's a name, type string. So there are a lot of different types. We'll talk about stripe later. And let's say length is 40. And let's say title, right? I can choose any other. Let's say I want to have a drop down. So a drop down in ServiceNow is called choice. Right. Let's say I want to create a choice. I don't know. Let's say salutation. Right, things like that. Maybe a date. So what kind of table are we creating? I don't know. So I'm just going to add some date fields. Let's say joining date. No. Example. Date. I'm just trying to show you fields which you'll be able to easily understand. There are fields which you won't be able to understand right now, but most of them you will. Let's say an integer field. I don't know. Let's say I'm just arbitrarily create fields. They are not really that linked with each other. So I create an integer field and all. Okay, let's see those. So I save now. So the moment you save, this is where ServiceNow actually creates the new fields, adds it to the form, and kind of lays out the way you want it. So the way I put it would be my sequence, right? So this is the way a form looks right now. So there's a date field, right? And there's an integer field. So although I can put, but I don't know there's a validation in place already. But obviously it's supposed to be capturing my numbers and all. These two are of course my string fields, right? But the first thing that you notice is the form doesn't look good. So let's try to make it better. So to make it better, ServiceNow provides few options. Yeah. So we are talking about creating fields. And configure layout. So how do I lay it out properly? So there's something called splitting. Let's see how it works. Again, very easy. Anything that is between begin split and split comes to the right side of the form. Anything is between split and end split comes to the this comes to the left of the form, and the other one comes to the right of your form, and there will be a split like this, right? So there'll be left, there'll be right, and there's a split. So save. Right? Now it looks a bit better. Anything that comes after your splitting would be, again the way it was before, like sequences. So let's say notes. I'm going to create a new kind of field called journal. Right? So this comes after, right? So that's the way you can lay out your forms. We talked about splits, right? So there is a begin, there is a split, there is an end split, right? So anything between begin and split comes to the left. Anything between split and end split comes to the right, right? And anything after, comes here, obviously. So that's how splitting kind of works to help us lay out the form properly, right? Now, if we talk about different kind of fields, ServiceNow provides a lot of different kind of fields, and a lot of them. So right now, we will concentrate on the ones that we use a lot, like every day. So I'm going to write these down right now, and later we will see all those. I mean, I already created a few. What else? Oh yeah, how about the most important one? Okay, let me collapse. So this way you can actually kind of collapse these two if you need more space. Right, so okay, so pretty much, yeah, I forgot one more, which is heavily used, which is true false. Right, so these are the ones that we use in everyday cases. The ones that we not use so much, currency, we have, let's say, I mean, currency is not exactly the field. The type is called price, but kind of shows you currency. So I can better write price. And then you have URL. There's a type of field called workflow type, which serves a very specific purpose. What else? Phone number, yeah. Phone number, percent complete. Right? These are all different kind of fields. We use it. There are fields which you'll probably never use it. Document ID I would rather put on top. That's also another type of field that we not use regularly, but is very versatile. Yeah, maybe decimal, yes. Right, so these are the kind of fields that are not so heavily used, and let's say not so heavily used. All right, so that's that. Now, the moment you lay down your form, we have to remember one thing: any certain form is meant for serving certain purpose, right? So if I look at any example out of box, right? Let's say typical examples, right? Let's say incident. So if you look at the incident form, the data that we have, these represents the property of your incident functionality, right? All this. So it has to be meaningful part of your application. The way I have, obviously, it's all arbitrary, hypothetical fields. It does not relate with one another. But you cannot have a table which happens, actually, right? I'm just, trying to showcase you on the demonstration, so it's kind of allowed to have it here. But when you actually do it for real life, right? We cannot have fields which are not related to each other and which does not belong to a certain application, right? So in those cases, we will have separate table, and if at all these two tables has got relations, we have to build the relations, right? So one of the most important parts in ServiceNow data structure is to understand how you relate tables, right? That is where there's a concept or a field type called reference that's coming, and that is used very heavily throughout ServiceNow system. So we'll talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Ravi, I have a question actually. So in normal web application, we have like domain model, like different objects, like different type of objects, some relationship. So in this case also, we have like that, or
we do. We absolutely do. So okay, let me show you an example. Let's say this is my incident table. Okay, so I can right click, configure, go to something called table. This will give me the very first page when we actually created my table, right? So this is the kind of page we got. So this is how it looks after it gets created. So here, if I scroll down when it finishes, okay. So come on. So if I scroll down, there's something called Schema Map. I click, and it's going to give me a diagram of how different data objects or data structures are interlinked. Some kind of a version of an ER diagram, let's say. So ER meaning entity relationship. So if you look at this, the color code, this one denotes reference table, meaning what are all the different kind of tables are linked in my incident table. So this table has got all the different links of this table, and that's how they are linked. That is where a reference comes in. So we'll actually talk about it, but just to kind of give you a heads up. So ServiceNow system, the data model is built on a typical ORDB-based system, right? An object relational database management system. So why it's ORDB-based? Let's understand that first. I hope you guys are aware of ORDB-based, right? At least.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in a typical ORDB-based system, all the tables and their relations can be treated as an object. If I show you examples of how you write scripts in ServiceNow, you will realize that using some global object, I can use that global object to represent, let's say, a row of a table. That wouldn't happen unless the whole system is represented through a ORDB system. So whenever we create a form or a table in ServiceNow and we link that table to any existing table, or we link that table to any newer ones that we create, those two represent a class, right, or an entity. Each and every field of that table represents its property, right? So if you create an object of the table, using that object you can access any of the properties of the table. So when we are linking two different classes together, the reference, there's a type of field and you can treat that as a general English word. So there has to be some kind of reference, right? So when we, let's say, directly create a table in database, what happens? So we'll have a primary key, we'll have a foreign key, right? And the data of primary key would be residing in the foreign key column of another table. That's how two tables get interlinked, or you can join two tables. The same goes here. Whenever ServiceNow creates a table, I was talking about sysid, so that sysid is actually my primary key. And whenever you create a field type, which I was noting down here, reference of another table, let's say I've got my demo table, and I am creating a reference of user table in my demo table. In that case, what happens is user table would have their own sysid, demo table would have its own sysid. These two are individual primary keys. But when I create a reference of user in my demo, the data of user sysid becomes accessible in my demo table's reference field, so that whenever I choose a certain user, that sysid gets stored internally. So let's understand this a bit more. So let's say if I go back to my demo table, a demo. All right. Now here, let's say I want to create a reference field, which I just taught. Let's say right-click, configure form layout, and let's say user. I say reference. The moment I say reference, you see ServiceNow asks for which table to refer. So here I have to provide my source table, or rather my related table. sys_user. That's the internal name of the user table. So this is the table user. With the label sys_user is my internal name. I'm gonna add, and I'm gonna move to the top somewhere here, so that both have got around 3 columns each. Balances out the form. And if I look at the data, you see, unlike these fields where I can type, right, or here I can type, here you cannot have your own data. You are going to use something that already exists, and that's why we have this search option. So it says lookup. So you have to look up to the existing value and select one. Let's say select this, right? So the moment you select, ServiceNow automatically gives you this icon for reference field, which gives you a snapshot or a detailed view of the same person who you chose right now, so that you can kind of see, okay, yeah, this looks right. But it's a read-only view, of course, as you understand. So how it works internally is, user is a column of my demo table, just like any other ones. Now demo table obviously have their own sysid, which is my primary key. So if I right click, go to configure, and let's say table, I will see all my columns. So I was talking about all the system columns, right? So here you will actually see, if I come here, okay, so there's one thing that's missing. Let me quickly fix it. Oh, column level is here, okay. And I don't need all this. I need, let's say, column name and maybe type. I actually don't even need table. Anyway, so what I'm doing right now, please ignore. We'll talk about it separately. I'm just trying to fix up the look so that it kind of looks good. What the didn't I just change? Really? Oh, it did not change. Okay, anyway, let me show you a bit differently. So I'm gonna go to So right click, instead of table, I'm going to go to something called dictionary. So dictionary table is the one that stores all my metadata. Something got changed here. Okay, let's fix it. Okay, so let's say these, right? So any column that starts with sys underscore are the ones that ServiceNow creates the moment you create your table. SysID is one of them. The SysID or they call it GUI ID as well. And as you can see, GUID. Okay, so it's a 32 character hexadecimal code, right? ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4 all together. Now, this is my primary key. Right? Now, whenever I create a reference, let's say I created my reference of user table. Right? This is the reference. And I chose some user by doing a lookup. So the moment you do it, the way it works is, so look, this is my SysID of my table, and then this is my U underscore user, which is a reference. Right? So in SysID, I'll have my own SysID, which is my primary key. Let's say ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4. So it kind of is a bit big, but I'm just going to show you an example. Here, I'm going to have another SysID, user 1, 2, 3, user. This SysID actually is a SysID of the person who you referred. So now, if I press tab, this is my user table, right? In my user table, so this is actually my, let's say, demo table. Let's do it this way. So this is my user table, right? Yeah. Right? And user table would also have my sys ID, right? And user table can also have their own reference field, which is not obviously of demos. Some other tables reference. For example, a user table has reference of, I know, so I'm telling you, department, location, what else? There's some other, etc. So this is my user ID. So this user ID actually gonna be this. So this is one record of mine, so demo SysID, this is one record of mine, and user SysID, this is one record of mine. Let's say this is represented by, let me put a name. Come on. Right. Let's say name is Ravi. Okay. So with my name, this is my SysID. So the moment you refer me here, right, ServiceNow will get the SysID of that person and store it here internally. So let's see it. So let's say I'm going to create a new table, a new record on my demo table, and I'm going to choose any person. So let's say anybody that comes on top, Zen Sulikoski, right? And I right click and save. So when I look at the form, I actually see the name of the person, but internally, if you like to see, there are a lot of ways to see the internal data. I'm just showing one version, which is kind of quick and easy. So when I do an inspect element of this form, of that particular field, come on. Right. Let it come up here. It's quite slow. Right. So here, if I actually let me tuck it to the bottom. Right. This, right? So where the hell is that? Yeah, here. So if you look at these data, right, and if you look at the value, which is let me show you. Here, right? So if I scroll a bit up, you look this. This value is actually the sysid. So if you want to confirm, I can actually go to the person's record, right? So you can understand this, right? So let me copy. Now if I go to the record, so if I click that icon, it kind of takes me to that page, right? So here, if I want to verify that value that ServiceNow is showing and storing it internally, it doesn't show up in the form, of course, but it stores it internally for developers to use or administrators to use. Now, if I kind of let me open that notepad. Okay, that's it. Really, and forgot to copy this. So if I copy the sysid, and if you kind of may remember some part of it, you'd see it's the exact data that was stored in it, right? So that was the sysid of this user. So all this represents a field, as well as sysid represents a field, which you cannot kind of take it on the form. ServiceNow restricts it. But if you really want to know the sysid, you can know it. There are various ways of knowing it. You can just say copy sysid, or you can say copy URL. Either way. So if I do copy URL and put it here, you'll see this sysid equal. So this is my sysid, right? So if I go back, you will see ServiceNow does the same. Whenever you refer these data and kind of save it, it will show you the name, because obviously if I show sysid, nobody is going to understand what record does it represent. But internally, for developers, it's going to store the sysid, which is this, right? See, 168. This time I get copied, right? It's the exact sysid, right? That's how ServiceNow stores it. So in our table, u_user becomes my foreign key, right? And sysid is the primary key of my user table, which is being linked here. That's how all the reference, there are a few other type of references, in other type of relationship rather, but in terms of reference, that's how all the kind of reference are, they work in ServiceNow. And if you want to relate two different tables, this is the easiest way to relate, right? Let's say you have demo and demo 2, you want to relate demo and demo 2, where you would like to create a demos reference in demo 2. Now, how do I decide whether I have to create a reference of demo to user, or I have to create a reference of user to demo? That would depend on what kind of relation you have. Do you have a one-to-many relation, or do you have a many-to-many relation? Typically, whenever we create a reference of one table to another, the source, let's say, it's not exactly a source, but table would have one-to-many relation with the target automatically. Okay, so what does it mean? Meaning, if I look at this example, can I treat these saying that since I have a reference of my user in your demo table, so this is one record of demo table. Like this, I can have a lot, right? So will it not tell me that for one record of Ravi, I can have multiple, demo records, right? It is possible, right? Because I'm referring the same record, and for each record, I have multiple demo records. So the table that you're referencing and the table that you're referencing with, these two becomes one to many. So user becomes the one part of it and demo becomes the many part of it. And that's how we decide when we are creating a new reference where to create it. Are you expecting to have data which will be coming from that table and you're going to use in this table? Then it obviously the one-to-many has to be from that perspective. So I'm not expecting that one demo is going to have multiple users. I'm expecting that I'm going to have a demo record which will talk about users. So basically, user can have a lot of demo records. That's how we kind of decide where to create the reference. That's also a pretty important question when you're creating all those relationships. Otherwise, it kind of breaks. If it's many-to-many, there are different ways to do it. There is a out-of-box way. There is a kind of a simple way that developer use. So if I have got, let's say, demo and demo 2, two different tables, here I can create reference with each other, right? So both has reference of the other. That kind of simulates a many-to-many relation, but not exactly the way ServiceNow does it. But we'll talk about that at a later stage. But anyway, just to give you a understanding that whenever we try to relate data, there are various ways of doing it. So I'm just showing you one way, which is to use with reference. There are other ways. We'll talk about it at a later stage. But before I move on too much, let me pause and understand if you guys have any doubts or questions.
Yeah, Ravi, I am good actually.
All right, Kiran, I'm not sure if you will be exactly representing your husband, but do you have any question of your own?
No, I'm good.
Okay, okay. Right, okay. So now that we kind of talked about reference, so let's take it one step forward. We said because we created our user reference in demo table, so one user can have multiple demo. Now the next question is, how do I see it, right? Where do I see that this is my user and I have all these demos under it, right? So for that, ServiceNow have something called related list. You might have seen it. I don't know if you have seen it, but I'm going to assume that you've seen it. So a simple example would be, let's go back to incident again, and let's open up Enrol. So related list kind of shows, related data with the, main data, right? So incident is my main data. This is the kind of data that I'm looking for. Along with it, if I'd like to have more information, I can have it in my related list. So if I scroll down, you'll see there's something called task SLA, right? So these are nothing but if there's a SLA, it will attach here. So now this SLA data is something that's related to my incident data, but not my core component. So these tabs, this particular section itself is called related list. So how do I create a related list? So since I said, and that kind of also shows you, if I go back on, so that kind of also shows you that one incident can have more than one SLAs, right? Pretty much what we are talking about right now. So I'm gonna show you how to actually do it, how to get that here, right? So the easy way to do it is, if you have references created already of one system into another, all you have to do, excuse me, all you have to do is just open up any user record. It need not to be a record where we just related. It can be any record at all. And I'm gonna do it in
Hello, Ravi.
Yes.
Can you define me, please? What is SLAs?
Oh, okay. SLA actually is it's called service level agreement. So it's used between two parties and mostly talks about a person of success ratio. So let me give an example. A typical example would be, let's say, you work for a company, okay? And let's say you are working as a QA, right? So now, part of your QA, you're going to use, let's say, a desktop, which runs your QTP or whatever, Bugsila, whatever you run. Now, let's say your system crashed. You have to get it fixed. Who's going to fix it? The IT team of your corporate is going to fix it. Now, if you call them or raise a ticket, how do you think you are going to, wait, or how much you have to wait for it to get fixed? How do you control that, right? So we need some kind of time, meaning that, let's say if some VP comes in and say my desktop crashed, the IT team has to fix that desktop or give him a solution of certain kind within, let's say, 15 minutes. If you, as a kind of a employee of that company, got the same trouble, you might have a day, right? So this time, and out of all the tickets that gets raised every day, how much those are compliant is your SLA, right? So the way to track SLA is the ratio of, not exactly ratio, more like a percent of your compliance tickets. And the SLA itself is nothing but a time, right? So the service level are providing service for me. How much time would you take to fix it or resolve it? That time is your SLA. So for a VP, his SLA with the corporate IT would be 15 minutes. For you, would be 24 hours. So when an incident is raised, how much time do you have till the SLA becomes non-compliant or the SLA gets breached is what your task SLA table will tell me. If I, will probably, give you a heads up about SLA. I don't know, it will be you or your husband, but anyway. This is where I kind of show my SLA. So if I open any example, here you'll see that for my table, which is incident, if my start condition, it's still loading, but it's critical, so I'm going to assume it's for critical priority. Right, so if you look at the start condition, it says, if my ticket is still open and my priority is critical, right, I'm going to have an SLA which is of critical priority. And how much time do I have? I've got 8 hours, right? So that is what SLA is, a duration. And how does it get calculated? Let's say in a day if you have 100 tickets, out of which 90 tickets are those where you manage to close the incident or resolve the incident within time, and 10 of those which you couldn't. So your SLA becomes 90% compliant. Does it make sense?
So office hours will be calculated.
Don't worry about how it will be calculated. Just understand the fact that they're going to calculate some or the other way. All right. So there are a lot of different ways of calculation, and there's a schedule, there's a time zone, and all that crap. So don't worry about that. Just bother the fact that you are giving someone a task. Let's say if you are a lead, you're going to give your colleague or your team member a task, and you're going to tell them, I need it by 1 hour. Maybe the task requires 4 hours, but you're going to tell them that you need it by 1 hour. So that 1 hour becomes his SLA, right? His agreement between you and him, the amount of time he got to complete the work.
Okay.
Right? So that's the concept of SLA. Now, how it gets calculated, how it gets manipulated, that's all logic, which will which we can kind of cover some other day. But that's the concept. So it comes from a typical ITIL framework, right? So I don't know if you're aware of ITIL framework, IT Information Library. So it all comes part of that ITIL framework. Because initially ServiceNow was heavily involved. It still is an ITSM tool, right? So any ITSM tool would be following ITIL framework. And all these things like incident problem change, your service catalog, your capacity, your availability, your transition, knowledge, all these are part of ITIL. But yeah, never mind. Okay. Now I think we have 5 minutes left. So let's see that relationship. So let's say I said that. Okay. So I'd like to see which user got how many demo records. So it's damn easy. So if you already have a reference created in in one table, which is referencing this table, all you have to do is come to the source table, and almost everything is right in right click. So I'm going to right click, and so configure related list. Here I have to search for my table, which is again not a rocket science. Come on. Alright, so here we'll have a lot because half of the ServiceNow table references user. So if I type demo, here I have it, demo user. Right? I bring it in and I save it. So now it kind of represents not only logically but through view itself, I can kind of see it that yes, one user of mine can have multiple demos. So I already have one demo because I created a record, and I can create new records from here as well. Interestingly, if you send new from here, you will see the user data already got filled in with this name. So that's kind of good, so that ServiceNow can easily relate, right? So I put something and I submit, and it's going to show me another record. So Zane can have more than one demo, right? So it's a one-to-many relation. That's how all these tables are stored as well. Like she can have more than one role or whatever, more than one group, either way. So that's how ServiceNow relation happens, and you will see this related list almost leaving some system table. You will see all the functional tables would have some of the other kind of relationship, because that's the way to show your data, right? Who's related with what, and what else do I get, right? So here I get my user data, here I get my role data, here I get my group data, and all that. Anyway, that's fine. I hope you guys managed to understand something. So any questions before I hop off? Okay, I take that as a no.
We are good. You're sending the recording to us?
Yeah, well, I don't send it. I upload it in my folder, and you can see it whenever you want to. So typically, it remains in that Google Drive, right? So,
okay.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I think Farhan, is it Farhan or Farkan? I guess, right?
Farkan.
Farkan, yeah. So Farkan already got the. When I added him, I mean, you might have got the new link in your Gmail as well. So all you have to do is just click that link, bookmark it if you want to, and then you can see all your recordings right here.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, so whenever you guys get time, also try to download it, because although I keep it for like few months after the whole section is complete, but I don't keep it like eternally. So after some time I'm gonna remove it. So better if you guys can download it locally, that's kind of easy.
Sure. And you're uploading the document also, right?
That gets, I mean, I create a Google Drive document itself, so it's already there. All I have to upload is the video.
I think it is better if you upload, like already it is there, right? So we'll be able to see it, right?
Yeah, you'll be able to see it, download it, whatever.
Actually, I didn't take a full note, whatever you have given there. So
that's fine. I typically take notes because I know people won't, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I have some questions actually. So the normal web application and this ServiceNow, the difference what I got is just this is my understanding. So there we have domain model is multiple tables, and each and every tables we will have lot of entities, and we have different relationship. But here we have small relationship between tables, right? Not relationship, that much relationship here, right?
We have actually, a lot of relationships. So we are just starting. So slowly, when we start building to our interface. So there's a certain constraint that comes up with, because ServiceNow is a tool, right? It's a
Yeah,
product.
yeah.
So it will not give you, access to everything they use. It will give you access what they want to give it to you, right? So there are
Okay.
certain constraints, but if you talk about a typical YA diagram, the way it works the
Mhm.
exact same.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And what are the other things like other technologies willing to learn like JavaScript? What are the things like I don't have any.
Yeah, you can actually refer to this document. I actually put a detailed note of, since I think almost all of them said that they are from either QA or not so programming background. I think you are probably the only one. So have
Uh,
to be.
Ravi, actually, I was not able to listen your something. Some audio was not like I was not able to
Okay, so
hear.
what I was saying is,
Yeah.
what I was saying is, I actually in my last session, I kind of
Mm-hmm.
gave a list of which you should have, a very
Mm-hmm.
good understanding before you become,
Okay.
kind of really good in ServiceNow. So these are the things, and it's already part of my intro notes, so you can actually, see it.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything else?
Uh, yeah, that's all from my side.
All right then. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.